sure how long we were live streaming for.
I'm hoping you're
before we realized.
Hello, everyone. Sometimes we do that. We always have a bit of a chat beforehand, and sometimes our team get a bit excited and press go, and we're still kind of deciding what day of the week it is, but that's okay. It's Monday morning. I'm in my own office. Maybe that's the reason I'm actually doing the podcast from my office. Maybe that's why we're all a bit discombobulated today.
Maybe it is, Jenny. You're just not used to being home.
No, I don't think so. But I'm really excited about today because today's topic is we're continuing on from our conversation last week about branding. And last week we talked about branding, and today we're talking something really exciting about bringing our brand to life. What is the topic today?
If I don't mind, if you just wouldn't mind just holding on one moment. It says at my end that the recording has been paused.
Oh.
Hang on just a second.
And I think it's back on again.
So have we done our intro? I'm not sure.
Shall we start again? Welcome to live recording, people. This is what happens sometimes when we're doing lives on Facebook and on Zoom. So we might just start again. So for those joining us, just fast forward through the first couple of minutes. We might go back and edit the video later, potentially. But let's restart again for our podcast so that people know where they are and why they're here. So hi there, this is Jenni Walke from Elephant in the Room Consulting and Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media, and you're tuning into the Bite Size Business Podcast, the show that helps small business owners get clarity and insight to grow their dream business. Good morning, Kylie.
Good morning to you, Jenny. It was a slightly discombobulating start to our day, but great to be here with you. And you're at home in your home office, not in an airport or in a hotel somewhere. It must feel great to be starting off the week in your office.
It is. It's really, really exciting. I'm loving actually having a Monday in my office. It's my one day that I normally like to regroup. I do my planning, but we've been doing workshops and other things on Monday, so we haven't had this day. Although tomorrow and then Wednesday, Thursday, I'm all over the country for another 3 days. So at least I get Mondays and Fridays at home this week, which I'm very excited about.
That must be very nice.
It is. And how has your weekend been? How's your start to the week gone?
Oh, so great. I'm actually having Friday off because I'm off to 3 days of the Byron Writers Festival, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That is so exciting. I've heard such good things about that festival, so I'm excited about that for you.
I am too. Many, many, many years ago, like probably 22 years ago, I spoke and did a reading at the Writers Festival of the first book that I was writing, and which I never published. It never got finished, but it feels really exciting to be back. I haven't been back there for at least 10 years. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm going with my niece, who's an aspiring writer. So yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it.
That is very, very exciting. I love that.
So today, Branding 101 Part 2. So a strong brand can make any business stand out from the crowd. And last week we talked a little bit about psychologies of colors in your branding, and we talked about how does your brand make people feel. So we want to really carry on from that. And are people getting the right message about what it is that you do, who you help, who you serve, etc.
And it's so important. And sometimes the brand really does resonate with some people and go, I can see that brand, exactly what that brand is about. And I know that I want to be part of it. Then sometimes you see brands and you're like, I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be doing. And it does create a different, either a disconnect or a connection just by the colors, the style, the look, and the way your brand shows up online, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Now, let's talk about your brand for a moment, because you sent through something fabulous last week, and you may not be ready to talk about that, but just how nice it was to see that evolving of the logo, but staying on brand with the colors, etc., and the symbol.
Yeah, no, we've been thinking about changing our logo for a while mainly because the original logo, while we loved it, it just didn't, the way that it actually talked about Elephant in the Room Consulting as our brand, as the name, just didn't really resonate with us. And we're starting to kind of it was out of date, for a better term. And so we've started First Nation Strategy as a sub brand under Elephant in the Room Consulting. And so we wanted to make something and an identity that's going to match both brands. So both our Elephant in the Room, which is our business coaching and our individual coaching, and our brand in terms of the First Nation Strategy. And it's all it is. It's the same beautiful elephant, just tweaked a little bit, and our font has changed. But it means that now that we can have a suite of brands that will all sit and look similar, but just our elephant has a different kind of look and feel.
Yeah, but still super similar. I think that's what was so clever, is that it literally is exactly how you said. It's just evolving. And yeah, it just looks so fabulous. And I love you've stayed with the colors, you stayed with the look and the vibe. You've just changed it. But
yeah. It's like the same but different, right?
same but different, exactly. Super wonderful, super exciting. I'm just launching a new program, I'm hoping at the end of this week. And I know, so that's pretty exciting. So I've been doing the same as you, not so much with the Hello Media branding logo, but certainly some branding around the new program. So I just find that so fun. I feel like you plan something in your mind, then you plan it on paper, you set your intentions for it, etc. Then it's time to get stuck into what it will actually look like. And that's the fun bit.
100%. The branding for me is where everything starts to come to life. I think when I play with my branding, when we start to look at, how we're showing up to the world and what that looks like, the brand for me is, I guess, really clear. People know what they're getting when they see our brand. We have Elephant in the Room Consulting. Sometimes we're called EITR. So we've now just separated that. So we're Elephant in the Room. A lot of people call us that. And we can be Elephant in the Room Consulting, which is our legal name. And then we have First Nations and then strategy. So the two key words there are that consulting piece and strategy, and then it's just the name that's different, but the logo, as you said, is a connection. And that evolution is such an important part of when you're designing a brand. And that's the piece, I know I learned that off you so early on in our relationship when we started, when we're talking about how do we show up and what do we want our business to look and feel like. That branding piece that you share with me so early on, particularly around colors, I found a real game changer for me, and also the conversations I have with my clients. So why is color? We talked a little bit about color last week, but why do we need to elevate that?
It's very much about what you're showing up as, how it makes people feel. If we go back to that discussion about your new elephant, for example, as the symbol in your business, you said something really interesting, which was it was outdated, but actually it's only to you that it's outdated. It's not necessarily to others, but I totally get what you're saying, because it's been there since the very, very beginning. But what I think you've really done is, rather than replaced what you saw as outdated, you've evolved it. Yeah. So I think that so many people do have a very outdated brand set. I look at some of the things, particularly if you look around 5 years ago, it was very, very trendy to have a whimsical, what would you say, like a wreath, but made out of feathers, some flowers and things, and to call your business using your two children's names. Yeah. Now that's awesome if that really suited you at the time. You were very modern, very on trend, etc. What now? What's happened to the business now as it evolves? And how do you sell that business with your two children's names and the feathers and flowers, which is definitely not as much on trend anymore?
No.
So what is it that it's saying about you and how you're presenting yourself to the world? Now, it's all very well. We talked last week about colors. Now, my favorite colors are pink and green, but they actually don't suit my brand. So I didn't use them. I used variations of some of that pink, but not really.
Yeah.
So in fact, I don't even know what you call that color that I use that's a kind of a pink. So just because something you really like doesn't mean it's right for your brand. It's maybe not coming across right. When you think about, what do people look at you and see professionally?
Yeah. And I think, and the colors, we talked last week, we started to talk a little bit about colors and the styling. And I think that styling, and I've got a couple of clients who are, showing me their brands at the moment. I'm saying they look really lovely, but also they're making their brand about themselves. and not about their customers. And I know you and I talk about this a lot, is that when you have a brand, the brand is for your customers. It's not for you. So yes, it has to showcase you a little bit. It might be a style that you like. It might be an image like my elephant, and there's a backstory to your brand and your values. But when you're creating it, you also it has to resonate with your customers, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, not naming names, but someone we were just talking about just before we came online today, who I've been working with on and off for a number of years. Her business name means something really important to her, and as does the symbol and the icon. However, to anyone else, including me, even knowing her business, it looks like the name is literally something completely different to what you'd expect that it is, in terms of what the business is. But also the logo is literally like a kick as opposed to a positive check mark, I think is what it's meant to be. So again, it's about, has she used those, which I know she has, because they feel important to her, because it feels that's a really special messaging. I'm going to give you an example of when I did that. So my dad was a film producer in New Zealand, and I had a film production business in Sydney that I started up just after he died. And I was young and I was living in Sydney, and I'd been working in film for quite some time. And I wanted something that would absolutely connect me to him. Now, my dad, one of his favorite sayings was, "You be beauty." And he would always say it in that way. So my mum had got him a personalized number plate, which was you and then a space, BU and then a space, then a T. So you, beauty. So that was fine. That's great. It was just a quirky thing, about him that he used to say. So I thought, great, I'm going to call my film company in Sydney here. After that, it's going to be You Beauty Productions. Awesome. So
Such an Australian name, though, isn't it? It's such
I know,
that's Australian name.
Isn't it? So anyway, I thought I really want to do that spelling because it's just him to a T. Well, my mum really doing that number plate. But anyway, what I hadn't thought through, and I worked with a graphic designer at the time, and what I hadn't thought through, because to me, it was You Beauty. But when you look at the logo and the whole graphics on the business card and everything, it looks like You But.
Oh, of course it would.
And everybody thought the business was You But Productions. And they would say like, "Oh, interesting name. How did that come about?" Or they'd say, "Oh, it should have an R in there and be Your Butt."
Oh, wow.
It just went from bad to worse. And I was absolutely adamant that I was sticking with what I needed to have for me, for what it meant to me. But I should have just dropped that one and ran and picked up something else. So that's a really good example of stopping what's good for you. It's not necessarily good for the greater good.
And that's an example of where we could have evolved that. And we're all young, we all make mistakes like that sometimes. And yours was just because of the context, right? The context is really important. And if your customers don't know the context of your business or the context of your brand or how you've come up with that, then you're going to look at it and go, that just seems a bit odd. But now you explain to us, I'm like, I'm totally going to say You Beauty. I can completely see that. But you may have been at a time saying, well, is there a different way that I can write it so that other people will understand it? And that will be my evolution, my backstory. We'll talk about the number plate and talk about You Beauty as what my dad used to say, and why we've chosen to spell it differently, so to make sure that people get it. But that's that kind of evolution and learning that we have to go through. And sometimes that's really hard as a business owner to let go the thing that's so important to you.
Absolutely. And what I should have done in hindsight is had the logo as the actual number plate. And I've got his number plate in my house as artwork on my wall, and it looks fine. It totally makes sense in that way. But the way that the designer had created it was going down in 3 bits, so U, then BU, then T. He tried everything to not make it BU, but it still did. So I just knew that I didn't want to have the name that he had, which was Mowbray Film Associates. So that to me, I'm not. It's
not you at all. Mowbray Film Associates, not you at all.
I'm not a fan of using your own name. The reason for that is because I really feel like you always need to have a plan about where the business is headed, and you're absolutely stopping it from being able to be sold at some point if it is your name.
And I think that's a really important point. I mean, you and I, again, we're totally aligned on this conversation about, people say, well, why don't you call your business Jenni Walke Consulting? It's like, because then it's never going to be saleable. But also for me, for a growth perspective, if I have a firm that's my own name, it always signals to the team who are working with you that you are always going to be the person on the door. It doesn't provide a growth opportunity. So if you want to grow a business and have more people working with you and be part of the team, and eventually maybe even, get a partner where they become part of the team as well and they have some ownership stake in it, you can't do that if it's your name. If it's a derivative of your name that's not specific to you, that's different. But for me, as Jenni Walke is a very specific name. I could be J Walke Consulting, and that would be weird because you're crossing the road against the lights. That might be an odd kind of connection. But again, it's making it hard for people to want to come and join that business, or, as you said, to sell it. And that's a really important thing. Whether you want to sell it or not isn't actually the point. It's if you need to, or you can't get into a position where you realize the business isn't for you anymore, you want to be able to position it in the best way possible.
Absolutely. I think I've mentioned before, but I'm definitely going to mention it again, is that a local photographer that has a storefront and everything, she's out there doing her thing, really work for her. So you turn up to the shoot and it's not her, but her name is the photography business, which seems a very common and popular thing in photography, which I've always found interesting, if you're not going to be the one showing up. So you're also then not able to scale your business to something saleable if it's your name, photography. Yep. So I think having a name that's like the umbrella, and then I'm the photographer that turns up under that umbrella, makes a little more sense to me. But anyway, my sister-in-law was one of her photographers, and there were people that were disappointed, going, but I paid for this. Where is that photographer?
And I've heard that so many times, particularly whether it's a coaching service. I know when Tony Robbins, way back when, started to scale his business, and he moved to the model where he only services half to 1% of all of his clientele. He now has a pyramid structure, essentially, or for a better term, that basically has, senior coaches, and then they coach people, and then they coach people. So when you join a Tony Robbins program, you're not getting Tony Robbins, you're about 10 to 15, potentially 100, people removed from him. But when it first started, there was that adjustment period that he had to make, because there was an expectation, because of the price point, because of the offer and the branding, that it would be him that you were going to get. And so even somebody like him went through that phase of way back when he started his business. And so it's really important, if you want to have it as the Tony Robbins, it becomes the Tony Robbins framework or the Tony Robbins model. So it might be Jenni Walke's framework or the Kylie Mowbray-Allen model of marketing, and it has a nice ring to it, but you're actually, it's the framework that you're purchasing, not the individual. And again, that comes down to the brand name and how the brand is showing up to your clients.
Absolutely. And how it's being perceived. What I think Tony Robbins does well is the naming of his programs. Yeah. So for example, most people know about UPW. So that's kind of the first one where you start, unleash the power within. So again, though, I would have gone, W, anything with a W, if you want to shorten, it's just too annoying. Like even just saying W, it's just too long. So, but you also wouldn't say UP, that's just up. Or maybe up would be good, I don't know. But thinking of all the different variations of how you're going to be showing up, if they're written as letters, for example, does it make sense? Does it read as something inappropriate? I met someone recently whose name was Bum, but it wasn't, it was B, literally, then U, then M. And she just used to shorten it to write her messages. So that's fine if it works in your business, it's a bit fun and quirky, but hers wasn't. No. So I found that pretty amusing.
So there's so many different considerations. We've talked about color. We've talked about the importance of making sure the color aligns with you, but you're also your customers, the way your brand name is chosen. So even the name of your business, and bearing in mind, you don't actually have your company name, or the name that you have, your legacy company doesn't have to be the name that you show up to the public in. You can have a trading name. You can have a business name. It doesn't have to be the name of your company as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can play around that to have your, essentially your private company. That's the family legacy and the trust versus the company versus the business that people know you as the brand name that know of you. And then we've talked about colors, and then we've also talked about making sure it resonates with our customer and why that's important. But what is if you're going to have one tip, if somebody wanted to have a look at their brand, what should they be looking for to make sure that their brand is still resonating and is still working for them?
I think, Jenni, they've got to work out what kind of business they are. And so if they're a business like you and I, where we are doing services with other businesses, then it's just as much about us, the person, as it is about us, the company name. So I suggest 2 landing pages for your website. One is your main homepage if people are just Googling, but another one would be heading to your website and there's the Jenni Walke page. So it's in a sense kind of like an About Us page, but that should really be about you and the company. But just the Jenni Walke page as speaker, facilitator, coach, consultant, all those kinds of things in there, and literally like a homepage of a site. So it's still there. It's in your navigation. It's everything on your site is easily visible. That could be where people go to on your Instagram, for example, whereas on LinkedIn, they would go to your main homepage.
Yeah.
I just think, yes, to differentiate between you and the brand, but then also to marry them by having those 2 different ways of presenting yourself.
I love that. And I think that's so important, particularly for people that have entrepreneurial spirits and don't necessarily want to be tied to a singular brand. It gives them that sort of standalone page that people get to know and like them as well. So then if they do start to expand their business or grow their business, it actually bounces off the individual rather than the name of the brand. So you're creating a personal identity as well as something for the business as well.
Yes, because think about it. Often you'll be a speaker at an event or something and people will remember your name. Other times they might remember your business name. It all depends on what resonated with that person or what stuck out for them. So then by having you totally searchable under both those things is so incredibly important.
I love that. I think that's a really important tip today, that, despite whatever brand it is, whether it's color and everything else, making sure you're having your own brand so people can connect with you. And that isn't just if you are, in a service industry like we're doing. You might be the inventor of a product. You might be creating a new system, and it helps credentialize all the work that you're doing when you can do that well.
Absolutely. And, we had these clients for about 6 years and they sold their business earlier this year. And I was showing somebody their website because it was made with Wix. It was absolutely brilliant, if I say so myself, but that's because their photos are so incredible and their video. So it was easy to make a really great website for them. And Wix was just the perfect platform for what they needed. The interesting thing is that business now is at least 5 months ago that it was sold. So when I went onto the site the other day, everything's still the same, down to even the photos in the About section and in the footer being the old owners. Like, oh, you really need to update that because it's actually misleading, letting people think that it's still those owners.
Definitely.
And then they haven't posted on socials or done any of that. And I'm like, hang on a second, it's really confusing because in the lead up to the sale, there was a lot of talk about it. And, the owners that had started it from scratch, they were excited to be handing it over to someone who was passionate about it. And then suddenly, what happened? Then another thing that just happened too is I was putting a client onto someone about a different type of website build, and they hadn't posted on their socials in 40 weeks. And we went and looked at the website and it was having a little glitch on there as well. And I said, oh, maybe she's gone. Maybe it's maybe that business is over.
Yeah.
But it's not at all. It just looks like that. So
wow.
It's a really important thing to consider too, is what does their whole business look like to somebody else?
Yeah, I think it's such a key point. So for those who are listening today, take a look at your brand, have a look to see whether you're positioning yourself as the owner in your story so we can get to know you as well. Have a think about what the color and the logo and is it time for a brand refresh? Are you considering it from the perspective of your customers, or you're really just looking at it as something that you did really quickly on Canva 10 years ago and it will do? And also, what does that overall brand experience look like? I know that's my big bugbear when I go to websites and I can't click through links, or the pages don't show up, or it gives me a not found, a 404 error. And I'm just like,
or not secure in the URL.
Not secure. Definitely. All those things. It's time now to have that moment. Your brand is more than just your logo and your colors. it's your website, it's how you show up to your clients, and it can impact quite significantly your business growth or your business future. So make sure you take some time to have a look at that brand. I know, Kylie, you do some brand audits and help people kind of review and refresh their brand. So how can people connect with you?
Jump on to hellomedia.team and book a discovery chat, or jump into our Facebook group where we're sharing updates and tips and tricks and algorithm stuff going on, which is Hello Media. So yeah, come and join us there. What about you, Jenni?
Best way to find us is at elephantintheroomau.com. You can find us at Elephant in the Room AU on Facebook and Insta and also LinkedIn. So connect with us on any of those pages. We tend to hang out on Insta a lot, but any of those you can find us. Just Google Elephant in the Room AU and you'll come up and find us.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be catching up with you very soon at your retreat. Are there any spots available left for that?
We have one spot available. I'm very, very excited. We have 4 amazing women joining us at the retreat. 3 days to change your business, 25 to 27th of August down at Cabarita. I'm so excited. It's been a while since we've run one. So I'm really looking forward to this Empires Builders workshop and retreat where we're basically going to change people's lives and their businesses in 3 days, which is so exciting. So if you're interested in that, have a look at our socials. We're promoting that at the moment on our socials.
Awesome. I can't wait to be part of that and to be talking about branding on the last day.
Oh, I cannot wait to having you involved in that and doing that session with you, having you come in and helping us do that brand audit and getting people to really deep dive into their brand is going to elevate that whole workshop, and people will be leaving with a complete brand and a complete workshop or a complete business, or at least a pathway as to what they need to do to build it. So really, really excited about that.
Yeah, so good. Everybody needs time to step away from their business and just pull it apart, put it back together, and leave the retreat feeling refreshed.
100%
about their business.
Well, thank you so much, Kylie. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today's episode of Bite Size Business Life Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow us so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
See you soon.
Have a great day. Bye.